newspaper, but I think it was also featured quite prominently.
Yes.
On NTV television.
Yes.
I think it portends a very sad situation, and it would be important, one, that the water body, the Kiwasco, comes out to clarify what the actual position is, because the allegations are very dangerous. But whether they are true in the specific case of Kiwasco or not,
yes,
that is subject to verification. The statement is true for a number of places in a number of ways. And it is true that our water bodies, especially Lake Victoria, is choking.
Yes.
And that is something that needs to be dealt with quite urgently. But as they're dealing with it, there's a more fundamental issue that I've raised before.
Yes.
There's actually a problem in the water sector. Once the question of some of this water development and provision was devolved, it ushered in a confused situation. You remember, I think it was way back in from about 2003, 2004, when the Honorable Martha Karua was the Minister for Water, that she quite wisely introduced this idea of, regional water bodies like Kiwasco and the others,
yes,
to take care of the water provision in specific areas, which was a very good thing. But once the 2010 Constitution came into place, and because largely water is a devolved function, the idea of actually providing water was now bestowed upon the counties.
Yes.
Yet, the regional water bodies remained outside the framework of devolved government. So, since then to date, and we are now talking 10 years, we still have a very untidy situation where these bodies are supposed to be essentially, under the national government. Even those who run them are essentially appointed by national government. You remember in the case of Kiwasco, in fact, there was a problem, even, in terms of its leadership. And yet, the role is supposed to be with the Kisumu County government. So there's an overall confusion that will also require to be attended to as we are looking into cases such as this.
All right, let's hear from Senator Aaron Cheriot briefly on it, just very briefly.
This is really unfortunate, but I must begin by commending the nation. These are part of the stories because it's not the only one that you guys have done. There was the other one about Athi River,
Nairobi River as well.
And Nairobi River. I think the folks at the environment desk, if there is any such a desk here, or the people that are just generally concerned about the well-being of our society, are doing a commendable job here at the nation, and we must continue to celebrate them every time they bring to fore issues as what they are bringing with this Kisumu Water Services Company issue is. And it's really unfortunate because I must be, I read the story actually as a whole because Kisumu is just a neighboring county, and every week actually I'm always in Kisumu about 2 times on my way home and on my way out of the county. Therefore, I was really concerned about what is happening because this is a main company that provides water to the residents of Kisumu. The only unfortunate thing, the BAL, is that when we did the water laws, we seem to have created so many agencies that even I, as a legislator, when I try to perhaps pinpoint and say the specific water agency, whether it is Warma or the other one, no, not DEMA. We have about 3 or 4 water agencies that check on quality, another one check on where the source of water. We seem to have split them into so many small units that they have lost the backbone to be able to do such a job. I think it wasn't such a good idea. If you had one statutory body whose only duty is to ensure there is compliance in terms of, payments, and there are those who check on quality, there are those who check on all these other issues, then perhaps you would not be having this kind of stories. But so long as you leave it, the management of the water sector to many mutilated small bodies, as is the case, then we end up having very great troubles. But then the unfortunate bit is that every time I read these reports, and perhaps your reporters can enlighten us, Debal, how comes they never go for at least a comment or a rebuttal from the Ministry of Water and Sanitation? I thought this is purely under their domain, and the minister should be able to come out and address the country so that we know whatever we are taking is safe for consumption. Otherwise, it will be given away as simply that we are feeding poisons to citizens. That's why we are having so many strange diseases. So please, it's a request on behalf of Kenyans, Dibal, that the people that go out to seek out these stories, our journalists, that ensure you also get a reply from the Ministry of Water on what is being done about this particular issue. For example, on this particular one, what is the reply? Even Ministry of Water, on their own volition, they don't have to be asked by the journalists. As good government practice, every time an agency is mentioned in bad light, they're supposed to give a clarification. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's hear from Eseli briefly on this, then we move on to other topics.
One thing, Dibal, we should know is that the water sector is one of the best funded sectors in this country, both with very huge donor support. And I think that's where the rain started beating us, with our culture of corruption and so on. So we are unable to actually do the right thing. As Senator Cheriot said, the multiplicity of agencies to manage water issues is also a problem. And then when you look at the water boards, water services boards, regional and so on, you'll find that they have been packed by political appointees who have got no clue about water and sanitation. And they seem to muzzle the professionals in that area, such that they have to kowtow to these people.
Yes.
And I think we are ruining the water sector by doing that sort of thing. We need to allow the professionals to work, because there is indeed good funding within the water sector. Can you imagine, Dibal, the amount of money that has been spent in the water sector since independence? And right now, 56 years since independence, not every household has running water. Yet the money that has been expended in the water sector should have been able to provide that. And even if they provided running water, now when it comes to the effluent, how to handle the effluent, that is where now it's even worse. I think we have a big problem here, and we need a sort of a rescue plan, so that we can avoid this kind of pollution that we are seeing, so we can ensure that actually water supply is enhanced throughout the country.
All right. Otena Molo, what legal avenue then should we, as a public, take against Kiwasco?
You didn't want us
Because
to talk about it ourselves. I mean,
You came from
I began with the gender.
Yes, I will allow.
Oh, okay.
I mean, are you saying that? Are you saying that
there are legal avenues under the environment?
Just hold your horses a bit. Let's hear from them. We'll come to legal avenues.
Bonnie Halole had not spoken about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Bonnie,
Yeah.
continue.
What you are seeing is not just limited to what has been highlighted in the newspapers. The issue of management of our water supply and water resource in general speaks to the poor leadership in this sector. Kenyans will quickly recall the time when the late Michuki was the minister in charge. The guy was proactive. Actually, in Nairobi, he managed to clear the Nairobi River, and it was a pleasant sight, and the stench was gone, and you could clearly see that there is leadership in this area. Because the necessary authorities are there. In fact, I would like to appeal to my colleagues that we shouldn't blame the multiplicity of the authorities as such. What we should insist is that the leadership that is put in place, both for those the particular authorities and the overall leadership, should do their work. It is so scary, especially when you remember that there are many waterborne diseases that are life-threatening. And when it is taken casually like this, it makes it even harder for us to obtain health for all. Kiakoyo?
You're not the man. I'm not looking last, but Deba,
so that Wamatang'i can talk lastly and finally and all those things. Dibal, these are fake stories. Because you look at the newspaper on page 6 and page 7
Of the Daily Nation.
Of the Daily Nation, they seem to be doing the same story with different headlines. What somebody seems to be trying to do is to kill Kewasco. And I don't think it is fair.
What do you mean?
You just opened the story. Shame of Kisumu Water Farm that is ruining the very lake it's supposed to protect. First of all, it is not the work of Kewasco to protect the lake. It is to provide water to Kisumu people. Then on page 7 says, sugar manufacturer denies polluting Kibos despite glaring proof of misconduct. If you read the story, both headlines don't have the substance of the headlines. And I think the people that are running this stories, your reporters.
But Kewasco is pumping at least 7 dangerous chemicals that can cause cancer and other disease into the Lake Victoria. Isn't that just a good evidence enough?
What is the alternative?
What do you mean, what is the
You
alternative?
know, I've lived in Kisumu when there was no water. You couldn't even go to toilet. Now at least we have water, even if it could cause cancer. Why can't we now say, use a different chemical? Isn't that the work of government? I have lived in Kisumu for the last 20-something years.
But the question is not about the chemicals. The
No,
question
but that's
is
what you've just read.
about you know, depositing this effluent into the fresh
No.
water body.
What they are doing, they are collecting, what Kewasco is doing is collecting waste and treating it and throwing it back to the lake after treatment. It's not as small. What should happen in Kisumu, as somebody who lives in Kisumu, is that Kewasco must, in its government, using the government of Kisumu, they must allow us not to throw back raw waste, because there's raw waste being thrown back into the lake. Kewasco is not the one doing it.
The effluent discharge point is carefully hidden deep inside the thicket, about 200 meters away from the busy Kisumu-Busia highway. It took us more than an hour walking in circles along a small stream that meanders into Kisat River to finally find it. And if you read the rest of the details, it really points to Kewasco as it is.
But what happens? Once they treat it, it goes to a place called Kisat. After treatment, then they do further treatment before releasing the water into the lake. What happens in Kisumu is that people have built along the lake. People are defecating on the lake itself.
Correct.
You know, this is not a good story. This story should really requires further investigation, Deba.
Kimani Wamatang'i.
Yes, my approach to this would be collectively about what I believe is the mishandling and the maltreatment of that asset as an asset of the community around Kisumu and its environment, because Dibala, even as we highlight what that specific company is doing in disseminating effluents into the lake, you'd be asking yourself, and this is what would be my concern, even more to Jakoyo, to Tiende, and other people who have more centered interests in that area, have things been done right in ensuring that the asset that is supposed to be Lake Victoria has been of value to the communities and the people around there, the way it should be. And I would challenge them to draw a simple comparison, for example, with what is happening in Naivasha. Just because of the presence of Lake Naivasha, look at the kind of attraction that it has spurred around their investments of several hotels. Now that's the second most popular tourist destination in Kenya after Mombasa, in Naivasha. Look at even the investors in real estate who have been attracted around that place. Look at the farming communities that have sprung up around Lake Naivasha. And it is just about taking care of that asset and making sure that even such issues, although Jacoyo you may want to defend, but we also visit Kisumu. And I'm a visitor, I'm a regular visitor there. And other than some of the upscale estates around where you live, around State House there and the other places, if you go to Obunga, if you go to Kondele, go there and ask those people whether they have access to clean water. They don't. I have friends who live there. I have employees, myself in Kisumu, and I know where they live. My friend, it is a shame that you would have Lake Victoria as one of, I think it is the second largest freshwater lake. And then you have people in the neighboring 1 kilometer from that lake who cannot have access to clean water for their daily living. And so what we'd be saying is, I believe, Dibal, there has been gross mismanagement. Look at, you ran a story 2 days ago on how the lake is choking with hyacinth. I mean, so we must call things the way they are. It is not neat. It is not decent. What you're saying, Jacoyo, that people are defecating into the lake, is that better than what the water company is doing? And it is not only the water company. Ask your reporters, Dibal, to do a more detailed, thorough investigation around there. You realize that it's not only this one, as you've said, because I saw some other pictures of, I think, one of the sugar companies also emitting effluents. It's not only those ones, it is literally every industry. That's what they do. They just discharge poison into that lake. So the fact is that the story that ran about half a year ago about the dwindling numbers of fish inside that lake because of poisoning are true. And what we should be challenging is challenging those that are in local communities, for example, the governors who are around that lake for the boundary where it affects you, Kisumu and Siaya and others, Homa Bay. Take collective action, I mean, meaning together, and also corrective, meaning to remedy those issues and make sure that the people of that area benefit. You know, Dibal, without prolonging this debate, I paid a visit sometimes as a member of the Public Accounts Committee to Homa Bay County. And when we paid a visit to Homa Bay County, inside the governor's office, you could not flush the toilet. I mean, it's not agreeable. You can't. We were with you, Boni Halwale. Yes, we were together. That time you're my chairman. Yes, in Park. You remember we went to use the lavatory. You couldn't flush it, and if you step outside the building, you run 100 meters into the lake.
Thank you.
You know, so we have to call guys who have been given responsibility for not doing what they're supposed to do.
Thank you.
They should do the right thing.
Right.
Let me just respond to the question very briefly.
On the legal avenue.
Yes, and the comments that Senator Wamatang'i has just made. I don't think you can allow my friend Senator Wamatang'i to get away with that kind of comment.
Yes.
Reducing the role of protecting Lake Victoria to those who come from the region.
No, I did introduce.
I said
you carry co-responsibility.
The role for environmental protection generally and protection of natural resources lies in the national government under Schedule 4, Section 22. That is a role that the national government must undertake. Protection of Lake Victoria, which is, as he rightly puts it, the second largest freshwater lake in the world, is a responsibility for national government. We cannot, and you must not blame those who come from the region for years of exclusion of that region and abdication of that responsibility. It is only in these later years, maybe about a year or so,
7 years,
that the national government is now remembering that Lake Victoria should be protected, and the investment on Lake Victoria is an investment in the nation through the efforts that is now being made in redoing, the harbour and the works around it. And specifically, Dibal, there's an entire act that is dedicated to protection of the environment and to dealing with the kind of issues that have been raised here. There's even a tribunal, the National Environmental Tribunal, whose work is to focus on such issues. So as we lament, you know, as we commend or condemn such investigative journalism, and personally, I encourage investigative journalism. I encourage investigative journalism that seeks to cross-check, as Senator Aaron Cherot was saying, the facts that are published, which is why I said that for me, they are allegations. But they are allegations that are well-founded so that it gives the opportunity to respond and investigate. But let us emphasize, be it Lake Victoria, be it Lake Naivasha, Lake Baringo, be it the coast, wherever it is, the role of national government is to protect the environment and to protect these natural resources.
If you allow me just a quick one.
We need to wind up the debate.
I didn't want to
gravitate.
And you know, Otiende Amolo is my friend, and also I respect his views a lot. But on that one, I would, as much as he says he would not let me get away with it, I would twice as much not let him get away with it. Because, Dibal, you have seen what has happened around other areas in this country where, for example, collectively, governors in the Ma community, when it comes to exploiting the natural resources of the people, by companies which have come to do mining of stone, quarry stone and others, they have taken a common stand and said we have to protect our communities and our local environment. Just because you are saying that this belongs to national government, they can't just come and exploit it. If you look at, for example, around Lamu, Kwale, governors have taken a common stand and decided that exploitation of their people in terms of, let's say, for example, like mining in titanium, they've said this, no. Why do we have, for example, Otiende Amolo, the economic block around the lake? You had one that was started. I mean, what we are saying is, yes, there's a responsibility that national government must take, but you also must have homegrown solutions, and you must encourage the people who have been given under our constitution. Now, we have a devolved system. Let them take a responsibility from the grassroots and then call national government to do the rest. Otherwise, you cannot allow them to just sit around and people are dying. People have no water in their homes and say we are waiting for national government to come.
Yeah. Finally, we need to wind up on it before we take a short break. Yes?
Dibal, you know, Wamatang'i is talking of a scenario that is of a perfect government. But Busia County, Siaya County, Kisumu County, Homa Bay and Migori, we are the ones who live around the lake. Busia has issues. Kisumu has issues. Nyanza has issues about leadership and even Western Kenya. Now, at least they're trying. They're trying to do something about it. I do not think it is fair to blame Kewasco of issues of non-water delivery and all that. Lake Victoria doesn't even have fish. That is why most of the fish imported from China ends up in Kakamega and Kisumu. And Wamatang'i, you should know, it is your government in Jubilee that is allowing importation of fish.
No.
So how do we? No, just a minute. Just a minute. I did not say anything when you were talking. When your government allows importation of fish, you have not allowed us to invest in the lake to take care of the pollution you are talking about. You have not allowed us. You know, in fact, the biggest producer of fish in what do you call the fish ponds, who is being supported by government, is from Nyeri. You know, you must not get away with that. Why is that money not invested in Lake Victoria?
Thank you. We need to take a short break we'll circle back with more. Kimani Wamatang'i, we'll get you rejoined on the other side of a break. No, we need to take a short break in 7 on the nose. We take that short break right now.